everybody. My name is Meriana Dinkova, and I'm a psychotherapist from San Francisco. And I also love to work as a life and relationship coach. And I am psyched to be here at the 9th Amazonian Peruvian Conference, or how's it called? 9th Amazonian Shamanistic Conference. Yes, in Peru. It's hot, and we have a fan working, so we gotta make that working. And today we're going to be talking about navigating altered states. And I know a lot of you are going to be doing ayahuasca tonight. So a lot of those tools we're going to be sharing are going to be very applicable for the ayahuasca experience. Although when originally I came up with the concept of the workshop, when me and David were talking about it, the tools work not only for ayahuasca experience or for San Pedro experience. I know some of you are going to try San Pedro. But also for things like depression, for things like a bad mood, or the bad PMS, heartbreak. Altered states is much bigger realm than only the tripping on whatever psychedelics. So as much as they're extremely potent there though, so I'm also really excited to hear you guys' reports about how that works. And I have been taking notes about tools of navigating those experiences since I was about 18, 19, so I have about 20 years of experience now, and I have been always a geek about it. And I remember years ago watching the movie The Last Lindsay, and going, oh my god, they have the nervous system that they come as downloads, they come categorized, they come with all kinds of tool sets, and I'm not doing anything about it, I'm sitting on them. And so many people that I know are just getting fucked up. And I would love to share with some of those people what else you can do with those states and how else you can maximize your experience. And I was kind of really bummed about back then not doing it, so now I'm really, really psyched to have David J. Brown here. He was one of my favorite author and co-facilitator, and together we're going to take you on a journey and give you a toolkit, which is different than, you know, tonight you're going to be working with the shamans. And my passion has been kind of more giving people the tools that they can also use in the shamanic experience. So the shamans have their very important role. And they have ways of helping you dealing with different states, but also, in a way, in each of us there is a shaman. So there's between the psychonaut and the inner shaman, there's going to be a lot of tools we're going to be giving you guys so that you can also, A, maximize your experience, not get yourself into a hard trip, or if you are in an extra negative trip, how to, A, get the maximum learning, B, not hurt yourself. Because there are ways also to be with the really difficult emotions that don't hurt you versus completely overwhelm you and traumatize you, and also how to get out of there, but mostly how to even prevent it. So ideally that you can do maximum learning with minimal suffering. I know that for some people ayahuasca can beat them up too. She's being pretty nice to me so far. But I know she can be also a very hard teacher, and how to navigate those states, how to interact with the spirits of the plants, of the different dimensions of, we're going to talk also about how to create your own support team. Anyway, in a little bit we're going to get into a whole bunch of tricks. But right now, I would love to introduce David, who is who 10 years ago I read one of his books. It's the virus, the alien strain. Have you guys, anybody heard of it? It's a beautiful little novel. Hi. Are you coming to the workshop? Okay. Are you coming to the workshop? Then no. No, it's not. We're recording. We're recording.
We're recording.
And so 10 years ago I read one of his books, which was Virus, the Alien Strain, which was a really funny and really wise and witty way of making, of putting a lot of like nanotechnology things, like between new technologies and new concepts of how to work with the mind and the body in very, very trippy and really, really funny way with a whole bunch of touch of sexy. And I was so impressed. And I so wanted to meet him, so I was pretty much like dreaming one day to be able to meet this amazing guy who had already like changed my concept about how you could put some ideas in a non-dry, super juicy, entertaining way into books, so that when I grow up I'm gonna be like that. And I would love to introduce David J. Brown. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Meriana. Well, you know, after an introduction like that, I really don't know what to say I feel like a little more speechless now, but I'm a writer from California, Northern California, from Santa Cruz. For the last, I'd say 30 years or so, I've been primarily a science writer. My background is in psychobiology and neuroscience. I did neuroscience research for years. I was studying neophobia, that's the fear of novelty, and electrical brain stimulation, how electrical brain stimulation affects different areas of the brain. And I've been doing interviews with extraordinary individuals, people in the forefront of the psychedelic community, people in the forefront of science and medicine and art and public policy, people who are really changing the world. And all the interviews that I've done and all the scientific research that I've done and many, many, many years of psychedelic experiences, I put together in this new book that I just published, The New Science of Psychedelics, which is about how all these different areas interface with one another. The questions that I came up for what I interviewed came to me through my psychedelic experiences, and then interacting with these different people helped to increase what I was learning from my psychedelic experiences. So,
you want to mention some of those names? Because you've actually worked with some amazing people.
Yeah, some of the people that I've interviewed that may be familiar with, Terence McKenna was the very, very first person I interviewed.
You guys know Terence McKenna, of course.
The ethnobotanist, who's a silver-tongued storyteller, just unbelievable with words. He's one of the most articulate people. When I first interviewed Terence McKenna, we went there with our questions, dutifully asking. Terence lit up a joint of Sensimilia, hashish, passed it around. Me and my partner got so stoned we could barely read the questions off the paper. But he was so eloquent, so articulate, so silver-tongued, so wonderful with words, that it turned out to be one of the best interviews that he ever put in the book. So Terence McKenna and Edgar Mitchell, the third person to walk on the moon, I interviewed about his psychedelic experiences, comparing it to his experiences in outer space. Andrew Weil, Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead, Simon Posfer from Spangle.
Do you guys know Simon Posfer?
Spangle. Rupert Sheldrake, the biologist from England. I worked with him for 3 years. I did all the California-based research for his books about telepathy in animals and psychic powers in animals. I interviewed Deepak Chopra. I don't know if you know who he is, sort of a new age philosopher physician. I got him to talk publicly for the first time about his LSD experiences. He'd never been publicly before. One of the things I've been trying to do, I've interviewed George Carlin, I've interviewed many, many famous people who have been very accomplished, and one of the things I'm trying to do is trying to show how psychedelics influence their work. Because many of these people haven't spoken publicly about it, and I think it's really important for future generations to understand the role that they played. You know, many people, I mean, for the longest time, the media had ridiculed, ignored, or demonized psychedelics. So it's really, and even the spiritual tradition, people are open to it, always downplay it, sort of put it down like it's not that important compared to these other things. I think psychedelics are probably the most important thing happening on this planet. I think the biggest problem we have is ecological blindness. Our species is ecologically blind, we're polluting the world environmentally. I do not know of anything else besides a psychedelic that can change somebody overnight, one night, and make them into a better person. So that's why I teamed up with Meriana. That's why we're going around trying to talk about psychedelics and to provide tools so that people can learn more and navigate better through these experiences. Psychedelics in general are not dangerous from a medical point of view. They're usually enormously safe. Usually take 10, 20 times, 100 times the dosage and not worry about overdosing. The dangers of psychedelics, of course, are psychological. It's going into a terrain, a new territory, and if you don't know where you're going, you don't have shamanic guidance, you can get yourself into trouble. Because the way you end a psychedelic experience is going to stick with you. So it's very important that you navigate through the experience in a way that brings you to a positive place, because that place sticks. So we'll be sharing some tools that we learned today, and also anytime that I'm talking, I really don't like doing monologues and just keep talking, so I like interactions, people ask me questions. She's the charismatic personality, I'm just the knowledge base. I know a lot about psychedelics. I've been studying biochemistry, neurochemistry for years. I have almost a PhD in neuroscience, and I've been using LSD, MDMA, mushrooms, ayahuasca for about 35 years now, pretty regularly. So I have a fair amount of knowledge to share, and I'm very interested to hear what kind of questions you have, what your background is, and what you would like to compare to learn today. So that's my introduction.
You're going to touch on the fact that I even became a psychotherapist because of psychedelics. Because of reading, when I was 19, reading Stanislav Grof's book, LSD and Psychotherapy, which made me leave the architecture program I was in at the time and go into psychology. And I was privileged to have him later as a professor at CIAS. You guys know, how many of you know Stan Grof? Yeah.
Can I say something about Stan Grof before you?
Yeah.
Stan Grof is probably the psychiatrist in the world who is the most familiar with LSD clinical research. He has done LSD psychotherapy more than anyone else in the world, and he is the world's expert. And his book, LSD Psychotherapy, is the primary textbook on how to do LSD psychotherapy.
Yeah.
And he's from Czechoslovakia. And he was doing legal psychedelic research in his country up until 1972, and they forced him to stop. And then he went to FSS and developed breathwork, which is an unformed works of alternate consciousness that he uses as a substitute for psychedelics. Anyway,
have you guys tried holotropic breathwork? How many of you have? It can be pretty intense because after getting some of the most amazing experiences and downloads from substances, in my 20s I spent a big time studying breathwork, Reichian, energy work, and becoming a geek of how to go there without the drugs, so to say, and definitely holotropic breathwork is a really interesting tool, as is oceanic breathwork, and so on. And I started doing ayahuasca in my early 20s. I chased it down in Ibiza, and I've drunk with many, many different shamans from very different traditions, so I also know that you guys probably you're gonna experience at least 3 shamans this week. So I also want to hear, I want to hear at the end of the week reviews of how was it and how the different styles work, because some people like a lot of structures, some people like almost no structure, some people are all about the song, so some people work with different techniques that different people use.